Persona 4, one of the most recognized series of all time. Hello everyone, my name is Frosty, the Frostman himself. Today we are going to be going through 13 volumes of Persona 4 manga by Udon. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I've been researching Persona 4 Golden for as long as I would say 8 months for a Let's Play project. God damn, the series is really good. And yes, Persona 4 is its own series because there's a lot of media for it. Got a bunch of spin-off games on it. Got the two main games, Persona 4 OG for the PS2, and the Persona 4 Golden for both Steam and PS Vita. The animation, the OG, and Persona 4 Golden anime, which is not good in my personal opinion. And then we had the manga adaptations. So let's go ahead and dive into these manga adaptations, shall we? Besides gaming, I occasionally like to watch anime and read manga, and Persona 4 manga series is no exception. Disclaimer, this is not a review of all 13 volumes, but rather my first impressions and the differences I've noticed between the games, manga, and anime. And another disclaimer, if you have never played Persona 4 for the PlayStation 2 or Persona 4 Golden for the Vita and or Steam, I would highly recommend playing the game from the beginning to the very end first, before diving into the manga adaptation and or the Persona 4 anime series. With that being said, the Persona 4 manga focuses mainly on the OG P4 for the PlayStation 2. I only noticed maybe one event that occurs that the adaptation takes place within Golden. That's a story for in the later volumes. So the manga series, as you can tell, you read from right to left, and it's all black and white. Now, that's typical of manga, but I do prefer the black and white style, to be honest, because it's easier on the eyes for me when it comes to reading. So every volume, you do get some full color back covers, front covers, and the first page of the manga chapter, and or volume if you want to call it volume. But what I will definitely say though is I'm gonna try my best to avoid spoilers as much as possible for this video, because that would spoil my surprise for the Persona 4 Let's Play project I've been researching for the past 8 months. And I'll be talking about every single little detail in that project, both on stream and the Let's Play project videos recordedly. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive straight into what I've noticed so far with these two chapters. Now, the main reason why we're only going to be going over through volume 1 and 2 is because equivalently through the games, they mainly go through 4 hours within the foretelling story. And the first 4 hours is actually covered from volumes 1 and 2. And then the rest of the chapters is considered by the community very spoilerly. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive straight into the manga adaptations. And yes, to prove that's the OG P4, this is the exact same title screen, just in black and white, from Persona 4 of the PlayStation 2. The name of the hero the manga artist decided to go with is Soji Seta. Many of you guys will know him as Yu Natakami, which is actually his canon name in both the anime and in the games. Now, the main reason why the manga artist decided to go with Soji Seta for the naming is because he couldn't decide a name, so he sent an email to Atlus's developing team who made Persona 4, and they gave him a list of names to choose from. And he does talk about that in his discussion notes that are usually found at the end of the volume chapters. I don't know if it's in this one or if it's in the later volumes, but he does have his own little comic gag. And this is really weird how Teddy is drawn with a duck face, or like a kind of a gerbil. And we'll talk more about Teddy in the next volume. The whole premise with Persona 4 is that Natakami, who I'm going to be referring to for the rest of the video as MC, is that his parents got a job and they're now overworking seas for a whole year, and he has to transfer schools and move into the country rural side known as Yasi Inaba, also shortened known as Inaba, where everyone knows each other pretty much well because the world's a small place after all, eh? When Narukami finally makes it to Yasi Inaba, he meets with his uncle, Ritaro Dojima, which Persona 4 has a really interesting beta history with Dojima, actually, and I'll talk more about that in my Let's Play project. But for the purposes of this video, we're not going to talk about beta stuff. And there's everyone's favorite little niece, or rather cousin, in Narukami's case, Nanako Dojima. The artwork is really splendid in these manga series, and I'm not gonna lie, the rest of the manga series actually has a lot of great artworks, especially Volume 4 and a few of the ending volume chapters. This is really interesting differences here because in the original anime series for the OG P4, Narukami feels really awkward giving a handshake to the gas station attendant. This is a very minor detail, but I've noticed it so far. In the Golden anime, Narukami offers the handshake first. So it goes to show you guys that there's these small details, but yet they could be foretold in a very identical way. It doesn't show exactly the similar results. So the whole story begins with there have been occasionally numerous cases of serial murders that have been happening with very unknown causes. Now, the manga tells the main story in a very different pathway, but you can still summarize the main story of Persona 4 with the manga adaptation by itself, but the games they do it much better. Manga artists decided to go with something a bit differently. It's a lot less vulgar compared to what he said in the games, but I find it very interesting how that Narukami's adaptation in the manga is a more polite and more, how do I say, more goal-oriented compared to the games and the anime series. The anime series, he's a chat. The manga adaptation focuses a lot more on backstory and character interactions that are not too involved with the main character. And I'll get into that more into Volume 2 with social links and also known as S-links. So, but over here immediately, while King Moron is introducing us to the class, from his perspective, Yosuke and Chie are actually having their own conversation. And in the games, they don't really have their own one-to-one conversations while the main character's either talking or there's some major event going on. I find that very interesting. And luckily, the manga does not keep the whole quote-unquote filler lectures and or unnecessary speeches like how the game has it. But the main reason why the game has is because it's the whole setup and comic relief. There are a lot of comic reliefs in the manga series adaptation itself, but it works a little bit differently compared how it was in the game. But Yosuke, this is the whole story of Yosuke breaking Chie's item, Trial of the Dragon DVD. In the games, she kicks him in the nads. I think in the manga, I don't know if she pushed him or she tripped him or something, but in the anime, she pushed him. That's like one major difference that I've noticed between the manga adaptation series itself. Now we go into skips forward because they don't really talk about, we don't really get to walk with Yukiko or Chie back to, well, outside of school. So that's like one major differences with the pacing. So this is actually very important to the main story. So Chie has heard the rumor of the Midnight Channel, and whenever it rains, supposedly your soulmate appears on the Midnight Channel. And that is true how they told it in all three adaptations. The interesting part in the anime is how they interact with each other with the comic relief or how they worded some of the stuff. Of course, in the manga adaptation, they're very limited to what they can put in the text speech bubbles without rambling on too much. The Midnight Channel comes on and it shows a girl, right? And this is where the MC discovers that he could put his hand through the TV. Sounds like a really creepy nightmare, right? There is an explanation, but I don't want to spoil it any more than that. So let's go ahead and jump into the things I've noticed between the games, anime, and manga adaptations that I find very strange. We go to the the supermarket known as Junes, and well, told Yosuke and Chie that we could go through the TV, and there you have it. We could go inside the TV. And they meet with, well, something very weird. Others call it the most annoying mascot character of the entire series. I love how like Chie actually kicks that strange mascot. Because I'll be honest, he gets on my nerves quite a while. His name is Teddy, but you grow to like him over the course of the game. Because if you just watch the anime or read the manga, I can almost guarantee you're not going to like Teddy as much. We think that Teddy may have caused these murders, and he accuses us. The way to get into the TV and to get way out of the TV is through the CRT TVs and whatnot. Because this Persona 4 came out in, I believe, 2008, and I believe we were still using these fat TVs, so it makes sense to why they use these instead of plasma screens. Fast forwarding, again, we see a shadow that kind of looks like Yosuke. Now, a shadow is a manifestation of one's denial in a being. That's the best way I can describe it, but here's what I don't really like about the manga. When a person denies their shadow saying, "You're not me," just saying those 3 words, Shadow goes on a rampage to get a huge power boost, and they change into these creatures, also known as the game's bosses. Some of the manga chapters, this doesn't apply to every character, but applies to this one particularly, is that Yosuke awakens his persona, which is the manifestation of one's desires and being, or rather one that accepts that there is a problem with them themselves. It's not a total resolution, but it is an acknowledgement. What I don't like is that Yosuke awakens his persona Jiraiya. Jiraiya fights with Yosuke's shadow. That is something I'm not a big fan of. This is one of the few cases where you would really have to play the games to understand what the heck is going on. Again, we're going to be talking about social links. When Yosuke wants to make even with the main protagonist, Narukami, instead of, them just punching, they do show an illustration of Jiraiya and Izanagi, which, by the way, MC only uses Izanagi throughout the entire manga series except for the very last 2 chapters. Yosuke doesn't really talk about this until Social Link 10. So I find this really weird how this is the very first volume and they're already talking about this. I don't know, I think it's better to set it up a little bit later, but that's just my personal opinion. Jumping into volume 2, it focuses mainly on the girl named Yukiko Amagi, also known as the best girl in Persona 4, personally, and her relationship with Chie and their backstory, along with the dungeon and whatnot. So again, this will come more clearly as we go through the volume chapter. Funny how Chie is dressed like this prince because, well, it explains in the game, while the other 2 princes are Yosuke and Narukami. And look at Teddy. 2 horses, and he's in the durable form. Again, illustration looks really cool with Yosuke and Narukami. And here, the Yasugami logo. Here is something that is worth pointing out. Now, remember how when Narukami goes through the TV, he sticks his hand, and then they call out Teddy because he lives there? Well, in the manga adaptation, they do illustrate exactly how Teddy bites the MC character's hand. In the anime, you get to see the marks, and in the games, you don't get to see the marks. But nonetheless, though, I do like how this is like telling in a different approach. Jumping into the Midnight Channel, we see Yukiko Amagi being broadcasted, and surprisingly, I'm not gonna lie, I actually really like this Midnight Channel add-on, but that's just me for being a little biased. The adaptation really, really likes to go into details exactly how the Midnight Channel program is supposed to look like. And in the anime and the games, we don't get Chie's reaction at all initially after broadcast. And I really like that because Chie is Yukiko's best friend since childhood. Yosuke is trying to guess Yukiko's, cup size. Chie's illustration. Her eating the whole, I forgot what this is called. The meat kebab and on stick or something from the small shop next to the udon shop. But this is actually really cool. And then Yosuke and Narukami go through their own TVs and they talk to each other via in the TV world, which you don't see at all in the games and the anime. That's really interesting, but nonetheless, it's a little awkward because they only rely on the TV by going through Juness. I believe the manga has the biggest advantage when it comes to dungeons. So they don't really talk much about the dungeons because there's really no need to. There are occasionally maybe a few mini bosses every now and then, but how they address the dungeons is they talk more about the memories and the backstory of the character, aka the dungeon that belongs to that said character. In this case, Yukiko's castle belongs to Yukiko. These speech bubbles right here, they talk more about Yukiko's inner feelings and how she really truly feels about what's going on. Yeah, you do meet Chie, but here's the thing about Shadow Chie is that, skipping right ahead, they talk more about Shadow Chie and how, Chie is more about jealousy of Yukiko's femininity, excuse me. But it jumps straight into a flashback with Chie and how Chie and Yukiko met with Choso Kaba. I think that's the dog name that Yukiko named it. Chie names it something else. And yeah, Chosu Kaba. Kabe. This is more discussed in a different social link for Chie, and I think that comes up in like social link 6 or 7. But the anime adaptation talks more about this in episode 4, which, by the way, one of the best episodes in the entire series. So that's how they met, and then it jumps straight back into the battle. Here is the thing, though. This is where Shadow Chie kicks Jiraiya in the net. Chie actually defeats her Shadow with, I would dare to say, a galactic bunt. Or a roundhouse kick, rather, would you want to say. She accepts it, and the Arcana becomes a chariot. This is a much better adaptation compared to Yosuke's Shadow, and how Jiraiya and Shadow Yosuke fought. That's just my personal opinion. Now we jump into the scene where Yuko was actually pushed into the TV world and she meets her shadow self. As they approach, see, this is like one of the greatest things about mangas, that they share like rough sketches. The manga adaptation does some things very interesting with Yukiko's shadow and how they confront the acknowledgement, but it's still not as powerful as the anime, if I were to be honest. Here they show more flashbacks. This is what I like. This is what I really like. Is that they bring up these flashbacks, and then these flashbacks actually encourage the character to confront their shadows and acknowledge that there's a, problem with them. And these problems were mainly common for 90s kids. They're still common today, but they were a lot more common back then, and I know because I grew up in the 90s. So I'll talk more about these problems in the Let's Play project, whenever the heck that is. This is what I like, though. Confirmation, acknowledging, and the character interaction's still there. Like, Chie didn't really, even though these two are best friends, they didn't really notice exactly what was going on and each other's inner thoughts. And that's really how Yukiko and Chie became like really stronger best friends. And what I like about the manga adaptation is that they show the date, how they would approach to writing this story. So that's actually another plus right there. While the video is rolling with the artworks I've seen that I really like from the manga adaptation, I just want to thank everyone who tuned into this video and watched it through and out, because it means a lot to me. If you enjoyed this video, please smash the like button and annihilate the subscribe button and explode the comment section. Let me know, who's your favorite Persona 4 character and why? This has been Frosty R&B. All I gotta say is, stay chilly, keep gaming. I will see you guys in the next one. And I like how Nadakami has that reaction saying, what is Adachi doing here?